Okay, my name is Renee Hyatt. I'm with Kahia. I've been with Kahia for a long time, and this is our second fall webinar. See if I can talk and push buttons at the same time. This is our second fall webinar, and we're so grateful today to have Lynn Lease from Southern Nazarene, but located in warm Venice, Florida. So, but I will not further, I'm going to turn it over to her and let her talk about, let me see, belonging, engaging, and persisting, helping the online adult learners. So, Lynn, I'll let you take it over.
Thank you so much. Thanks for the invitation to speak today and to share with you. Thank you for the opportunity to share what I've been reading about belonging. This topic really piqued my interest when I heard someone say there's a difference between welcoming our students and helping them feel that they belong. And that just really made me pause and reflect on what does it mean to welcome our students, and what does the sense of belonging mean? What do they interpret it as? What are the things we can do to help them feel they belong? What are the benefits involved when we do focus on helping them build a sense of belonging? So I started to read a little bit, and I wanted to share some of that with you today. I'm excited to be speaking to this group. In particular, I see some names that are familiar to me. So welcome. And if you're a friend of mine, hello, let's connect and catch up. So I'm going to share my screen here real quick. Okay, so you should be seeing my slides there. Let me get my screen set up. Okay, great. And I think we're okay here. Okay, so what I want to share with you today is I've entitled Belonging, Engaging, and Persisting, helping our online adult learners succeed. What I share today will be helpful for any student that you teach, but I like to specifically look at, from time to time, adult learners and some of their needs and some of their characteristics. So in doing some reading on this concept of a sense of belonging, the research does indicate a relationship between a sense of belonging and persistence. And this is just a visual that I put together. You know, the relationship probably isn't a perfect angle here, but I did want you to get the visual sense that the greater a student's sense of belonging, the greater his or her commitment to the institution, and the more likely he or she will remain with us. And at the heart of successful retention and success is helping students build a strong sense of belonging. So we all here are in education in one way or another. You might be a staff member or a faculty member, but we all have this formula of education that we work within. And ultimately, the outcome is that students leave us, they leave our class, they leave our program, they leave our university with a solid education, and that we help them succeed in their future career. So as faculty members, we strive to effectively teach our students. If you are in a student success area or you serve as a staff member, you also do things on a daily basis to help teach students, engage them in their environment, and help them succeed. So that is our part here, right? You are doing the teaching part of this equation, and then we have the them, and who are they? They're our learners. Our students play a critical role within the formula of education as well. So not only do we need to do our part, but we need to encourage them to do their part as well. And it all comes down to this community of belonging. And when we can build a strong community, this teaching and learning becomes a partnership. And the outcome, of course, is education. And I've taught online classes for a number of years. I've taught on campus classes for a number of years. And, it's more natural to know what a community looks like and acts like and feels like in a campus a community, on campus, in person, in a physical group setting. So we have an idea of what that looks like and what that acts like. But what does community look like when our students are sitting at a computer like this? They're distant from campus. They're distant from each other. They're seen as alone, or maybe they have a couple kids by their side, or dinner to make, or jobs to take care of. And many of them may be new to online learning. And as adult learners specifically, they've been out of a classroom for a long period of time, depending on how long it was since they've graduated high school, or they completed part of a degree or an undergraduate degree, and they're coming back and they're navigating this of what am I as a student now? And what does that look like? What does that feel like? And how do I fit into this community? They are asking those questions, right? So our ultimate goal in this educational formula, in order for it to work, we need students to stay with us. We want to be able to help them fulfill their educational goals. If they're not staying with us, we're not able to help them do that. There may be times where they're stopping out and coming back. That's all part of this persistence formula as well. And the research that I looked at as 2022 and prior, the research indicates that when we help students develop a sense of belonging within the community at our institutions, this positively affects their persistence intentions. In addition, one study specific to online and distance students, it showed that they can experience a sense of belonging and that it's strongly correlated with students' overall satisfaction, as well as their intent to persist with us. So not only are they staying with us, but they find that experience with us more satisfying when they do have this sense of belonging. So that same study that I just recently mentioned, that same study also found that faculty and staff, we play a critical role in facilitating a sense of belonging to this institution, to our online and distance students. So today, we're going to discuss the role that faculty specifically play in this development of a sense of belonging. There are a lot of strategies mentioned that an institution could embrace and do, but today we're going to focus mostly on faculty. So we know the story of the chicken and the egg, which came first. So I'm going to ask you that, which comes first, helping students feel a sense of belonging, and then they will engage in the community, or do we help students engage in the community and then they will feel a sense of belonging? And I would posit that these concepts are really intertwined. It's an iterative relationship between the two. This is all kind of happening at the same time. So we can offer opportunities for developing the community. We can engage students within that community, but we also need to ensure that we're really focused on helping them develop a sense of belonging within that community. So we want them to initially feel welcomed in, like I mentioned earlier. We welcome our students, but we ultimately need to make sure that they feel that they belong, and engagement with them is one key piece of this formula. So I want to look at this from a framework of community today. We're offering a community for our students, and within that community, we want to model and encourage engagement. So much of the reading that I've done about engagement, it needs to be interactive engagement. We're asking them to do things to interact with the environment, to interact with us, to interact with peers, to interact with content and technology, specifically with online learning. There's a lot of different factors involved here within this community. But when we encourage engagement, it can help them develop a sense of belonging, and then they will in turn engage even more within the community. And all of this leads to persistence and satisfaction. So first we need to ask ourselves the question, and that this is the question I asked myself. I feel like I'm a welcoming faculty member. I feel like I welcome students into the learning environment. But then I really started to think about the other side of this. What is belonging, and how is that different than welcoming a student in? Welcoming a student in says, I invite you in and you're welcome here. You're welcome to stay here. You're welcome to participate. But belonging is a deeper feeling than that. And what I read, I just pulled out some words from what I read about different authors saying what belonging is. And belonging is more than just being allowed to be in a community. We're telling students that they're accepted, that they're respected, that they're supported, that we know them by their name, that we value them even when they disagree with us, that we notice them, that we care about them. And then some other words that came up were things like relatedness, membership, acceptance, support, affiliation. When you think about a group that you've joined on purpose and you feel like you truly belong to that group, you do feel like you have a membership. Maybe you have a formal membership. Maybe it's just a sense of membership. Like, I belong. These are my people. I feel valued here. I feel like people not only have welcomed me, but they've accepted me. And I'm really an integral part of this community. If I weren't here, that would change the dynamic. So me being here is important. So if you look at the research today on belonging, they often point back to earlier research, even with Malcolm Knowles, that it's this sense of mattering, that we matter to the institution, we matter to the community. Our being there makes a difference. And I wanted to pull out this quote by Rosenberg and McCullough, talking about mattering, which I think we can equate with belonging today. That's our new word for that. Mattering represents a compelling social obligation and a powerful source of social integration. We are bonded to society not only by virtue of our dependence on others, but by their dependence on us. And I think one of the places we most naturally feel like we belong would be within our family. So we know that not only do we depend on our family members, I depend on my husband, I depend on my kids, but what really makes the difference a lot of times is knowing that I'm that my dependence is important too. I depend on them. They depend on me. So I need to be there for them. If I'm not there for them, then they lose that sense of dependence. So just a different way of looking at it, that our being there does matter, and people are depending on us to show up. So much of what we will discuss here today really does boil down to community. And I saw that over and over again in what I was reading, that the sense of belonging, it happens within a community. It's not separate from a community. Helping students see that they do matter in our learning communities is very important. Doing more than welcoming them or telling them, all of those things that I pulled out of the literature, they matter. We value them. We see them. We know their names. We care about them. And again, this is easier to do in an on-campus classroom where you're talking with students in the hallway, you're standing at the door as they come in, you're having side conversations, you're seeing them in the cafeteria. But how does that happen when we have our students far from us physically? How do we feel that? How do we help them feel a sense of connectedness with them? So we're helping them see that they can depend on us. They can depend on each other. But going back to that dependence quote earlier, we want them to also see that others are depending on them. So within community, there are different interactions that we have. As a teacher, I have task-driven interactions. I need to guide students in their learning. I need to make sure students know where they're going and what they're doing and when to do it and how to do it. So those are task-driven interactions, right? I'm helping students navigate the learning environment, and that's a critical piece. The goal of that is learning. And this is from Rovi, one of his articles that I found. Socio-emotional interactions are also a part of what we do. And that's the feeling part of what we do as a faculty member. And that's the goal of facilitating social well-being and friendships. And both of these are of equal importance within building a community. We can't just be the taskmasters. We can't just be focused on the doing part, right? We have people, we are people, we're dealing with people. We don't want students to lose that identity when they come into our online course rooms. So what can we do? Today, I'm going to share some specific strategies offered specifically from 2 recent research studies where students were asked if they felt a sense of belonging. And then further, those students were engaged in focus groups and conversations about what were the elements and the tasks related to them feeling a sense of belonging in that educational community. What was going on? What was there? What were they doing? What was the faculty member doing? And some of these are going to seem super simple, right? Many of these you've heard before, but we today need to remember that students reported these specific things, these elements and these experiences as having a role in their development of a sense of belonging. And we need to remember that a sense of belonging is an encourager of learner persistence and learner satisfaction. So as we discuss these strategies today, we're framing it all within this context of building community, inviting students in to engage in that community and to ultimately help them build a sense of belonging. So the first I want to offer you is an icebreaker, and that sounds super simple, right? We use icebreakers all the time, but I wanted to focus on this a little bit because again, we're looking at this through the lens of belonging. And a lot of times we say, oh, an icebreaker, yeah, and we kind of plug one in and we set it and forget it. But I want us to look at this as a strategic opportunity to offer early engagement in our courses. It's low stakes. It's pretty open in regards to allowing people to share what they feel comfortable sharing. It's low stakes or a no grade, no penalties. But the point here is for us to not leave out the personal self. We have students in our classrooms, they have a number assigned to them, and we know they are people too. But students have a personal identity, and the research shows that when they're able to share that, they're given opportunities to share that with others, they feel a sense of connectedness to each other and ultimately a sense of belonging. So you should be active in this area as well. A lot of times we see that icebreaker as something kind of off to the side where students are in mingling. I've even had moments of clarity in the classroom when I've asked students to participate in an icebreaker with each other. And I was kind of standing off to the side. And I soon realized that I should be participating in the icebreaker too, because I too am a part of this learning community and students want to get to know me as well. And I want them to get to know me as well. So you should be active in this icebreaker area and in these types of activities. Students do want to know each other and they want to know you. And even more importantly, they want to know that other people know them. So that's just kind of a different way of looking at these icebreakers and the importance of them. In addition, we don't want to leave out the professional self. When we are working with adult learners, we know that they come to us with life experience, with work experience. They have professional titles, they have professional responsibilities. A lot of times they're working during the day and logging into their class at night. And we don't want them to lose that identity in our online courses. So think about how you can build in some low stakes assignments even early in the course room. And those might be discussions. They might be short presentations that students put together. It might be sharing an area of expertise, icebreaker or discussion. Allow them to showcase their skills, their expertise, their professional experience, to share their title or some of their work experience. Have them offer a URL for their LinkedIn profile, or share a list of some of the things they feel that they are strong in as a learner or as a professional, just to kind of showcase their skills, but also allow them to see that other students in their class are also adult learners and they're also coming in with these titles and experience. They may identify with someone who has a similar strength. They also might gravitate towards someone who has a strength that they themselves feel that they lack, allowing them to build those relationships and to learn from each other. So this is going to help them connect their life and their work with their learning, and it helps them to get to know each other as professionals. And it shows that we value this experience that they're bringing with them. They're not kind of leaving it on the side as they come in as a learner. So another strategy offered by the literature is to offer social spaces for our students. And we can do that in a number of ways. We can build those things right into our course rooms. And I know there are more and more businesses, companies offering this sort of social feeling, this social dynamic to be embedded in the online course room. We've heard from like Harmonize and Active Class and some of those companies that are saying, we want to give your online course a social profile feel for students, because they're scrolling on Facebook, they're scrolling on Instagram, they're engaging in these types of things socially. How can we bring that in? But we don't have to pay for a tool to integrate. We have discussions within our classes. So I would recommend that you consider just offering an unmonitored discussion where it's just open for students. You might even call that the student cafe or our social space. You could be creative with what you call that, but it's an open-ended space for students and really student to student interaction. They can ask questions of each other, they can make comments. I would caution you to make sure that your sort of guidelines or rules for using that space are clearly stated. You can say that sharing is encouraged, that it's not limited to academic related items. They might have personal things. They might want to ask for prayer. They might want to share something exciting that's going on in their life. But I would point out that this space is there for them and what the purpose is. I have seen this work well, and it does take just a few students to get it started to make this a useful and supportive space for them. Ground rules might include things like kindness, respect, encouragement. Be clear that it is an unmonitored space, that although you may be kind of lurking in there, you're not engaging, you're leaving that space for them to engage with each other. And then also make it clear that if a question does come up that they can't answer amongst themselves, or something that needs to be addressed with you, that they can post that either in a professor Q&A forum or reach out to you via email in a designated space for questions for you. So some students have even found that connecting with learners outside of our course room is helpful. So, you might encourage them to follow you on Facebook, and then in turn, they may start to follow each other on Facebook, or offer your LinkedIn profile. Offer a space where they can share their social spaces where they can connect with each other outside. And this will help them feel a stronger connection and a sense of belonging. So the next item I want to talk about a little bit is real-time interactions. Now at Southern Nazarene University, we don't require students, our online students, to log in at a specific time or a specific day. But we do encourage faculty, and many of our faculty do, they hold optional meet sessions for their students. So these might be called virtual office hours, they might be called a Q&A meeting, or a working session, but whatever you call it, and whether or not it's optional or required, it's really, the purpose is to allow the students the option to come together in real time to talk. And I have been noticing from my end of course evaluations, even more recently, that I always offer a meet session the first week of class at some point. I have some classes where I offer that more often, just because of the nature of the class and the projects that they're working on. But it never fails that when I have a course where I've offered it just the first week, I do get a few comments from students that they wish they had had the opportunity to meet more often. So again, at SNU, it's not required. It is completely optional for us to offer and completely optional for students to attend. But when I do hold meet sessions, students do show up. And if I have a class of 12, I might have 5 that show up regularly, and that's okay. For those 5, it's important, and for those 5, I'm there, and we're engaging and building community. But when you make a point to take time out of your day or your evening to show up for your students, even if they don't show up, they will sense that you are available. And this helps them feel that they matter, that they're accepted, valued, respected, all those things that showed up in the literature about what a sense of belonging might feel like for them. And one note that was made specifically about these real-time interactions via Zoom or whatever platform you're using, Google Meet, students who aren't able to attend live, but are able to watch the recording after, they also feel a sense of belonging, that they weren't able to be there at Tuesday at 6 o'clock, but they were able to watch it on Saturday afternoon. And those students reported feeling a sense of belonging even when they couldn't attend live, but they felt like they were a part of that community. So options are good. And I see some things in the discussion over here about offering Zoom discussion time weekly. And they mention it on their evaluation as a popular option. Absolutely. I have read before that students want to know that they have the option. They may not show up, but they like to know that that option is there. So yeah, recording and posting those later for students who can't attend live, all good strategies. Remember, we're looking at this from a lens of helping them belong. So let's talk about peer-to-peer interaction a little bit. We know that we have 3 types of interaction in our courses. We have student to student to teacher, and student to content. Some models add in student to technology, but we want to talk about that student to student or peer-to-peer just a little bit. And I love to use Zoom breakout rooms. If you have not played around yet with breakout rooms, I would encourage you to do so. And anytime I hold a meet session with students, I try to take at least 5 to 10 minutes to have a breakout room time within that. I do find that when I meet with students on Zoom, and let's say I have even a group this size, of course, it's more difficult. But even with the size of even 6, as little as 6, 12 students in the room, very few people talk out loud, right? Because it is kind of awkward interrupting people over their microphone and muting and unmuting. But anytime I have placed students in a breakout room with a specific topic to discuss, I float around from room to room and I listen in and I let them know I'm going to be kind of popping in and out of their breakout rooms. So if they have a question that comes up, they can stay in there and continue to talk amongst themselves. And then when I pop in, they can ask me, or they can bring that question back to the main room. But the students are engaging, they're talking, they're sharing, they're saying things that I know they never would have said had it been a room of 12, but with a group of 2 or a group of 3, they're more likely to engage. And those discussions do focus on content or task, but if you listen in, you're also hearing them share personal things or share a struggle or ask a question about, is this a crazy idea to think about this assignment this way? I'm really nervous about this assignment. I'm not sure what she expects. There's a lot of that socio-emotional conversation happening within the academic conversation as well. The other type of peer-to-peer that I want to talk about, and there's going to be people here in the room even, and I know students do it as well. When I mention it, the dreaded, group work. But I do want to talk about it just a little bit. So I know a lot of students, especially busy adult learners, don't like group work. So perhaps offer it as an option. And I have done that in the past. I've allowed students to choose whether they partner up to work on an activity or they go it alone. And I talk about the benefits of, I really do focus on the benefits of doing it as a group. And I don't just randomly assign an assignment as group work. I make sure that it's an assignment that has multiple facets to it. Maybe there's research and writing and design involved. Maybe there's doing some work on the back end and then creating something at the end of the assignment. So I like to have assignments that require multiple skills. So if I'm a student who I'm really, really creative, but I'm not really good at doing the research and writing part, I might partner up with someone who I've learned through other parts of the class that they're really strong in that area. So I'm going to invite them, would you join me? And I'll focus on the creative part, you focus on the writing part, and we can work together. So allowing it as an option for students can really be beneficial. I have received reports from students who did choose to work in groups, that they appreciated the time, they appreciated the opportunity. And today with Google Docs and things that students, they don't have to meet in real time, they can still work together and they can text each other, or they can work in a Google Doc and share slides and all of those types of things. It's a great opportunity for them to build a sense of, someone else is depending on me to do my part. And as we saw earlier, that's an important part of that sense of belonging. Not only am I depending on them, but they're depending on me, so I need to show up. So I don't want us to just say, well, group work doesn't work online. Sometimes it doesn't. But if you can be strategic about the types of assignments you allow that option, then hopefully they'll take advantage of that, the students who want to. So group work or partner work, or even just quick discussions in these Zoom breakout rooms, or even in the social spaces, this builds their sense of dependence on others, and it helps them see that others are depending on them, which that's super important. And the next thing I want to talk about, and I've mentioned it a little bit throughout the others, but it's options, this idea of options. I can remember years and years ago, I taught 7th grade language arts for a while. And my first couple years as a teacher, I had these assignment guidelines that were really detailed and specific. And I offered samples of student work, and here's what it might look like at the end. And what I found was students either loved the assignment or they hated it. And they either, most of them really just followed the path and pretty much created what I asked them to create, right? So they followed all the steps. There were 10 steps, they did all 10. And then what they ended up with was very similar to the sample that I had showed them. And what I quickly realized is, if I offer them some options and more freedom, still with the same learning outcomes, right? We're big on learning outcomes, those stay the same. But offering students a path that they can choose, to get to those learning outcomes really gives them a sense of autonomy and creativity. But it really helps them feel that they're bringing something to the table. They're not just doing what I've asked them to do, but they're bringing in their professional experience, their personal experience, their what they feel are their areas of expertise, and they're really probably leaning on those. And when you have a variety of students, you have a variety of areas of expertise, and you're going to end up with a variety of outcomes in terms of what their end result might look like. But they can all still reach those intended learning outcomes. So allow and encourage students to be creative. And just instead of just ticking off the boxes of our assignment parts, that can be very boring for a student who comes in with a creative mind and is creating all day for work. Or maybe they have a job where they are ticking boxes all day and now they're coming in and ticking boxes for you. Maybe they want a creative outlet for some of their skills to shine. So allow room for creativity, options for completing assignments. Some students will be great at writing an essay. Others might prefer to express their knowledge in an infographic or a presentation. Maybe their speaking is one of their strongest skills, so they can speak to show their expertise in that area. So consider the assignments that you have and where you might be able to start to offer options for students in how they tackle those assignments. And then finally, I want to talk about engagement and presence. And the literature was clear that students who felt a stronger sense of belonging felt that their instructors were engaged and present. And so we need to be engaged and present. And this is difficult sometimes when we're a busy professional ourselves and we might be adjuncting for a university, or we're teaching for a couple different universities, or we have a day job and we're busy. Even as a full-time faculty member, you're often teaching multiple sections, and it's difficult to be present in all the places at all the time. So think about how you might show that you are present in efficient ways, right? And how you can engage. So there are synchronous options. One of the things I've started to offer, I haven't had many students take me up on it, but they do comment that they like that they have the option, even if they didn't use it. I offer a link to my Calendly scheduling item. I have it on the bottom of my email for all the people that work with me if they want to schedule a one-on-one. And I thought, why am I not offering this for my students? So I just started posting an announcement every now and then. Don't forget, if you have something you want to talk to me about personally or even academically, but on a more individualized basis, use my Calendly link and set up some time with me. Virtual office hours are a nice thing to offer, and that might be just, there's a time during your day each week that you're going to be sitting at your computer anyway, so you offer that as a virtual office hour, and maybe have a Zoom room opened on the side, and students can pop in and out. You might do that weekly Q&A optional meeting where you're offering students the opportunity to come in. Again, you're recording that so students can watch later if they need to. And then also think about your asynchronous interactions with students. And those are, of course, through discussions and grades and emails and announcements. And I've done workshops specifically digging into each of these areas and how you can different strategies within discussions to help engage students and improve their learning. I've done webinars on announcements and different strategies you can use with announcements. So I'm just going to give just a real basic overview. In discussions, you're offering your insight, you're asking questions, and you're pointing out great comments. You're steering things in a better direction when they're not going down the right direction. But you're in there encouraging and pointing out great things that students are saying, but they also want to hear from you as the expert in the content. They also don't want to hear from you too much. You don't want to, just like in the classroom, you're going to allow students on the on-campus classroom, you're going to allow students to have some side conversations, and you'll step in when needed. You might have a discussion with just one student for a little bit. You'll talk to the class as a whole. really try to think about how you can translate that to your online discussions and do those same things. In grading, add comments in addition to the score. So you're giving the student a 98, great. You think their work is good. What could they do to improve? Even when you're scoring them at 100. I have a friend who did his doctoral research on self-efficacy with adult learners. And one of the surprising things that he heard from adult learners in his study was even when they score 100, they really want to hear from the professor how they could improve for next time, even though they scored 100, right? And we know a lot of our adult learners they want to score the 100, but in addition, they said that it helps them feel more confident when they receive comments from the professor on how they can improve. They want to know what they did well. They want to know what they can work on for the next time. And when you're more specific, they can become more confident and therefore feel that they matter and that they're valued within the classroom. In announcements, you can offer additional point of need resources. Some of us are teaching courses that have been designed for us, but we may know of other resources, other places where students can go and get information. Announcements are a great place to put that. We're engaging with students there. We're showing that we're present. We're offering tips and tricks. We are offering those task-driven announcements, but don't forget about the importance of those socio-emotional announcements as well. So encourage, support, give kudos, share a funny picture of you and your dog, add your own expertise and experiences into the conversation, share a personal experience that you had as a learner. All of us faculty members, we were learners at one point, and I know that each of us struggled at least in one area. So share that with your students. Show them that you were in their shoes once. And this helps them to see you as a partner who's gone before you and that they can count on. I also saw in the literature, and this may seem counterintuitive, but one particular article focused on using a casual tone with students when it's appropriate. Sometimes students are intimidated to email us. They're afraid they're going to spell something wrong or put a comma in the wrong place. But when we use and those things are important, right? Proper grammar and punctuation, all that. But when we're dealing with students, we need to keep in mind that we can have a casual tone with them appropriately, and it helps them, according to the literature that I read, it helps them feel more comfortable and confident in communicating with us, either reaching out to us or replying to us. So keep that in mind too, that we're not speaking over our students, but that we're speaking to them. They will feel more valued in that. So when thinking about the strategies that I shared today, I want to encourage you to think about this as layers and options. So we don't want to force our students into a path of belonging. Students are different. We have different genders, different races, different backgrounds, ethnicities, different personalities, different preferences, and we don't want to force students like come and belong. We don't want to force it down their throat, but we want to offer them multiple layers for engagement, multiple layers, opportunities for participation. We want to offer them options with how they participate, how much of their personal or even professional selves that they share. We want to give them options for how they work through the course. And we want them to choose the opportunities that are most suitable for their needs. It's not a one-size-fits-all solution. We're working with a diverse group of learners, but we do want to think about this in layers and options. So with that, I want to ask you today, and I see some additional comments in the chat here. How will you engage and help students engage to help them feel they belong within the learning community? And again, we're framing this all within this lens of how are we helping them feel accepted, respected, supported, known by name, valued, noticed, and cared about? So I would just end with the question, I have an error here. What's one thing you will implement today? And that's how I will end it. Cheryl Carson asked, hi, Cheryl. She asked, do I have a quick link on how to use Zoom breakout rooms in the free version? Let me do some research on that. And Cheryl, I know who you are, so I'll reach out to you and we can discuss breakout rooms. Also, Cynthia Twiddell. Hi, Cynthia. I know Cynthia as well. She's used options and assignments. Even offering options. So she had 8 assignments. Students could choose to do 5 of those, each with different due dates, allows room for adjusting their time to fit their assignment due date, etc. Good. All right, so I'll ask our host if she has any comments.
Yes. Does anyone else have any questions they'd like to ask of our speaker today? And really enjoyed that. She gave a lot of great tips and tricks. That's what I'm always looking for, is the tips and tricks. So if there's not anything, I would like to encourage you to submit your proposal for the conference, the CAHIA annual conference, which will be next June in Grapevine. We were there in 2021. Let me tell you, since COVID, I can't get my years straight. So in 2021, we were at Grapevine at Embassy Suites. So I encourage you to make your conference registration and your hotel reservation. All of that's on the CAHIA website. Also, proposals. We are still accepting proposals for the concurrent sessions. It's sessions just like this that we receive great evaluations on, because it's an informal setting and learning all kinds of different things. So thank you so much, Lynn. We appreciate it, and I appreciate all of you coming or logging in. And I hope all of you have a wonderful day today and a wonderful holiday season that's coming up. Have a good day. Bye-bye.